listening to TMZ Movie Crashers.
Welcome to the TMZ Movie Crashers podcast. I'm your host, Fabian Garcia from TMZ.
I'm your host, Paige Catton from TooFab.
And this is a podcast where we are just talking movies all the time, getting in the weeds, industry news, obviously doing it with our own spin. And right off the bat, this is our first episode, and it is on the heels of Oscar night. And I'll just mention, too, right off the bat, that the formatting for this first show is going to be a little bit different than what you might see going forward. Last night was a big night, a lot of news.
Lots to talk about.
And we can just get right into it. The main takeaway and the biggest story from last night... Broke the internet, literally, was the fact that Will Smith struck Chris Rock across the face, squarely across the face, seemingly trying to defend his wife, Jada Pinkett's honor. Mm-hmm. And it was insane. I think we can pitch right to the sound right off the bat if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? Oh, wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's
G.I. Jane のジョークだったんです。
fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television.
Just absolutely crazy. Obviously, it starts with Chris Rock cracking a joke at Jada's expense about her shaved head / bald head, saying G.I. Jane. And the reason that I think Will and Jada took such offense to that is because she suffers from, I think it's called alopecia. Alopecia, which is a condition that causes hair loss. She's been public about that for
a couple years.
For a few years now.
Yeah.
Maybe since 2018, I think. Mm-hmm. She's spoken out about it. It's unclear if Chris Rock was aware of it or not. In any case, Will Smith got up there and smacked him, and it's insane. I mean, look,
he laughed first, though.
That's correct. So if you watch the tape, you will see that when Chris Rock first made the joke, it cut to Will and Jada. Mm-hmm. Will seems to be laughing,
just like a nervous, chuckle,
kind of like a nervous chuckle, and then Jada is the one who rolls her eyes, and then it cut away and went back to Chris. And my theory is that I think Will looked over at Jada, saw she was unhappy. Maybe she said something to him. Maybe she said, "You're gonna sit there and just take that." And I think at that point, Will said, "Nope," and then just went up there and did what he did.
I think that too. I definitely think that she had said something to him, or maybe she had even more of a reaction, and Will was like, "Oh, I got to do something."
Sure, and. Look, obviously, we can just right off the bat say that we condemn the violence.
Of course.
The violence is uncalled for. Was it necessary? It's wrong. We can repeat that a lot, but I'm going to defend Will Smith a little bit.
Okay,
I'm going to defend Will.
Interesting.
I am going to defend Will Smith a little bit because the internet seems torn on this.
Completely divided. Some
people are saying totally uncalled for, not necessary. You cannot strike somebody. You can't get away with violence. That's just that's just flat out assault and battery, which it is, honestly. But I'm going to defend Will Smith in this sense. He was getting up there to defend Jada's honor. I think the way he did it was not. He shouldn't have hit Chris Rock. I mean, that much goes without saying. If he would have gone up there and said what he said when he sat down, which is
in his face.
In his face. If he would have said, "Keep my wife's name out of your mouth," and if he would have yelled it on the spot on stage, I think that would have accomplished exactly what he wanted. Hitting Chris Rock, making a big scene. I mean, I don't know. In my mind, if I was with a woman or a significant other or something, and somebody said something to me. I basically what I'm saying is I could possibly be incited to violence in that type of situation in trying to defend my woman's honor or something like that. Do I think Chris Rock hit that threshold? No, but my threshold's different than Will Smith's, obviously. His threshold is smaller.
That makes sense. That's a good point.
I don't know. Another little theory I have too is, this is all with the backdrop of Will and Jada kind of being the butt of a lot of jokes in recent years, right? They're the
But they do put their personal lives out there.
Yeah, they invite
a lot.
They invite it. Basically, Will and Jada air out their personal lives to the utmost degree. But because of that, they're often They're often memed. They're often like they're kind of their family's a bit of a laughingstock. And Will Smith specifically has been made fun of and mocked and sort of ridiculed. And to his credit, he's sort of taken all that in stride. And I wonder if part of his reaction here was not just Jada looking at him and saying and maybe communicating, you better get up there and do something about this. But I also feel like just inside, this might have been a breaking point for him. He might have thought, you know what? I've been a joke long enough. This is where I draw the line. I'm going to get up there and do this. And I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew it was a live telecast. He knew millions of people were doing it. So he wanted to make a big show of it. He obviously did. I just think it was a combination of things. Plus, there's also the fact that Chris Rock and Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, they have history.
Yeah.
I think Chris Rock in 2016, when he was hosting the Oscars, he kind of roasted Jada, who was not there that day.
Because they boycotted.
They boycotted, and I think Will was sort of snubbed that year. Jada was upset about that, and also upset about the fact that there was not enough diversity. That was a big theme that year. Oscars so white. But Chris Rock kind of poked fun at her there as well too, and said, "Yeah, like Jada Pinkett protesting the Oscars is like me protesting." Rihanna's panties.
It's like me boycotting Rihanna's panties.
It's like me
I wasn't invited.
I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's history there. There was another. Another mention of like some. Chris Rock got into the comments of one of Will Smith's posts recently. Like he wished his ex-wife a happy birthday, and I think I read that Chris Rock slid into the comments of that post and basically said something to the effect of, "Wow, dude, like your wife must be really understanding," kind of thing. So Chris Rock has been poking the bear. That's another layer to this. There's history. Chris Rock's been poking the bear. I think all the combination of all of it, Will Smith kind of just snapped. I don't know. And like I said, I can respect the idea, the philosophical idea. I'm not going to
respect the violence.
Exactly. I'm not going to specifically defend this specific action, but I can at least defend the general philosophical idea of defending your woman's honor, like speaking and I've been in a bar fight or two. Like it happens, and it is toxic masculinity, and that's another conversation that people are having about this. Like Will just oozing toxic masculinity, and it was always just so interesting that the Smith family seems to be united on this.
Yeah, and like.
Sorry, I kind of give me what's your whole take on all this?
No,
please?
Because I was letting you go through that because I agree with several things you said. I mean, I do agree that maybe he did with your theory that he just kind of reached his breaking point.
Yep.
This was obviously like poking the bear. They've had beef in the past, or seemingly beef, and things going on. Like he was obviously hurt over some things Chris Rock said in the past, or just upset and irritated with. That said, and I do think about protecting his woman. Like I get all that, but I think it was still an overreaction.
It was,
and I think that. I agree with actually what you said when you said if he wanted to do something, just like yell.
Yeah.
Okay? But the punch or slap, what sounded like a punch.
Right.
That was just so uncalled for.
Right.
And I think another thing that really bothered me, well, there's two things. One was the fact that he was nominated. And he was obviously predicted to win, and he did win. And I think
that in a second.
And we'll get that in a second. But I think that obviously he could have done this somewhere else. And I think due to the fact that he was also the front runner and ended up winning, I think that this was even more of a reason why he should not have done it there.
Yeah.
Because he was nominated. If he was like another presenter or someone else in the audience, I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad.
Right.
And especially because the award hadn't been given out yet.
Right.
So
it was
people,
looming.
it was so.
Looming.
I was literally like saying, we know in our Slack channel, because we both worked yesterday for TMZ and TooFab, and on our Slack channel, we were like, oh my God, like best actor's up next. Like we're freaking out because what's he going to say? And I think that it made it more uncomfortable.
It did. I think it not only did it put a damper on things, but it kind of overshadowed, in my opinion, the entire
I felt
award.
so bad for Questlove.
Yeah.
Poor Questlove.
Poor Questlove, because he was
after.
Chris Rock was up there presenting for documentary, and then so Questlove's moment was stolen. Even Jessica Chastain, who won after that, her moment was sort of stolen.
The whole rest of the show, he couldn't stop thinking about it.
Nobody could stop talking or thinking about it. And to your point about Will Smith's speech, there too, it was an odd choice of words. He seemingly defended and doubled down in what he did.
All about love. I was protecting protecting my family,
throwing a lot of language
love.
about love around and crying and invoking God. In fact, I think we have the sound. We can listen to it real quick right now.
Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people. And I know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse. You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay. I want to be a vessel for love. I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees. Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father, just like they said. I look like crazy father, just like they said about Richard Williams. Love will make you do crazy things.
I think him talking about love and him wanting to be a vessel for love completely contradicts the actual action. Like that was not a loving.
I literally wrote in my notes all about love. Dude, you slapped someone.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. Dude, you slapped somebody. That's not love.
That is not love.
I mean, like he was talking about being a protector of your family. Like, fine, I get that, but don't come out here and talk about love. And you're making it like this. And I get it. Like, you just won an Oscar. It's a big deal. But like, there was a lot of emotions going through his head.
And I think he could have just. I think. Obviously, I'm not in his position, but if I was in that situation, I feel like he could have just taken the joke, and he could have done this response in his speech.
Yeah,
because he brought up, like you said, we're kind of in the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
And, they didn't say the exact words, but that's what he was alluding to.
Right. He was saying that you in Hollywood you're expected to just let people talk crazy about you and just sort of smile it off or whatever.
Exactly.
So that was obviously bothering him.
100%.
Right.
So I feel like he could have brought that up in his speech, the way he did his speech.
Yes,
instead
that would have been the classy thing to do.
That would have been the perfect thing to do, and even especially because he got emotional and everything.
He got emotional.
But then, but coming after that, it seemed slightly inauthentic.
Yep.
It seemed kind of like
sort of kind of meaningless, sort of empty. It was empty words.
And also, we talked about how much we loved Will Smith's performance in King Richard, and how much we were so excited for him to finally win an Oscar. I was disappointed. I was like, now I feel like I can't even be happy that he won.
That you're taking the words.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. You're taking the words out of my mouth because, as we discussed,
it was so upsetting.
Will Smith
it broke my heart.
I mean, just objectively, Will Smith was more than deserving of that Oscar. If you watch that movie, he kills it.
Yeah.
But you're right. His actions ruined the moment. It ruined his moment. It ruined the show at large. And you're right. If Will Smith would have taken the high road and saved his anger for the speech,
could have written it down.
Right.
Just bring it up later.
If he would have saved it for the speech, Chris Rock would be seen as the villain right now and not Will Smith. But at the moment, Will Smith is the villain. And look, and we can just to lay out the rest of the facts here. Chris Rock is not pressing charges. Yeah. LAPD says they're not going to file a police report. They're leaving the window open for Chris to do that. But as of now, no charges, no criminal repercussions for this.
The Academy released a statement saying the Academy does not condone violence of any form. Tonight we are delighted to celebrate our 94th Academy Awards winners who deserve this moment of recognition from their peers and movie lovers around the world. And they tweeted that in the comment. Well, obviously Twitter was people, like we mentioned, people are very divided, but there were a lot of people saying, then why didn't you do something?
Yeah.
Rosie O'Donnell was like, then you literally did nothing. Why didn't you do something?
The Academy tweeting out that we don't condone violence is another sort of just empty.
And then we congratulate the winners.
Yeah, if you really felt that strongly, you should have asked him to leave.
Yeah.
And said, someone else can accept your award on your behalf. But this is unacceptable. But the fact that they let him stay, they let him make this speech, it was mixed signals coming from the Academy. You kind of do condone violence. In fact, I would argue that you kind of co-signed it by letting him stay there and get up there.
Because now they got their viewers.
Yeah,
more people are tuning in next year.
And there's all this chatter and speculation about is he going to have to give back his Oscar? And we'll see what comes of that.
Nothing's official. It's all rumors and sources and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all innuendo. But we'll see what comes of it. But just by far the craziest Oscar moment, and I would argue one of the craziest TV moments in television history, frankly.
100%.
Yeah, and god damn it, I love movies and I love the Oscars, and it's just
I have not stopped thinking about it. I watched the videos so many times.
Yeah.
I've went to bed just thinking about it. I just can't stop.
Not to make too much light of this, and I know we can move on after this, but some of the memes that have surfaced from the Will Smith. Oh my
Lupita's
Lord.
reaction killed me.
Yeah,
she was literally just she was all of us just Is
and
this
then
scripted?
did you see the Batman and Robin memes? You know that Batman meme?
Yes,
where he's like
I know
slapping
that.
Robin. That's like that's Will Smith's. Yeah,
People are comparing it to like Euphoria, like
I know,
the
there's
Maddie
just so
slap.
many,
Oh god.
Oh man, leave it to Twitter to find something funny in a terrible thing.
Twitter always can find the light in
yes,
not so funny situations. So moving on, let's talk about how the hosts did. Amy Schumer, Regina Hall, and Wanda Sykes.
Yes.
First time the Oscars have had hosts in years, and there was 3 women, 2 women of color, 1 woman who's a woman of color and also a member of the queer community.
Yep.
So
all comedians,
all different comedy styles.
Yep.
And the opening monologue, they touched on like a lot of different things, but the thing that stood out to us the most was when they mentioned the Don't Say Gay, calling out Florida. But obviously, for those people that don't know, ABC the Oscars are on ABC, which is owned by Disney. So the fact that was approved is interesting, but they also probably like urged them to do that.
I'm sure they did.
Because they're trying to. We were talking about this. Just,
we don't have to get too into the weeds onto the whole Don't Say Gay thing, but essentially Disney has been totally wrapped up in that controversy, and I mean they've apologized and they've tried to like backtrack on like what they said.
The Lightyear, kissing Lightyear,
right, and they've been putting out statement after statement saying we support the LGBT community. So actually, with that in mind, I'm actually not surprised that Disney approved it. They probably said, get a little.
We need something there.
Get a little jab at us in there too, kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting.
And we were saying how much we were shocked by how like first of all, Amy Schumer got like her own like solo stand up.
She did,
and it was hilarious.
It was funny.
It was so funny. I was a little uneasy about a little not unsure how Amy Schumer was how it was gonna go. I thought is it gonna be super vulgar? Is it gonna be too much? Is it actually gonna be not even funny? But she was hilarious. She took like no one she had like no prisoners in the best way. Like she took jabs at like Don't Look Up, J-Law, who's like one of her best friends.
Right.
Leo, jabs at Serena, Venus, and Will.
Yep.
Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal said they were siblings. I mean, they were dating.
She made a crack about Lucille Ball and Nicole Kidman, and
it was good.
It was
and
good.
She
was kind of hopscotching all over the place, just cracking jokes, and I thought all of the jokes were like edgy enough to where I was like, "Ooh, that's edgy," but it doesn't go over the line. Like it was a great balancing act from Amy. On the flip side. And then, by the way, Wanda Sykes was great too. She kept it relatively kosher, and she had.
I loved their little costumes. And
they
everything.
had like them little skits and bits and stuff like that.
When she dressed up as King Richard with the tennis.
That was funny.
That was hilarious. I loved that.
Even her film segment where she goes to that museum was hilarious too.
That was good.
Now, the one host who's getting a little bit of backlash and some kind of critique, I would say.
People love it or hate it.
Yes,
love it or hate
one or the other would be Regina Hall.
Yep.
And she's a comedian, but she's like an actress. She's not like a stand-up comedian. I don't think she's more of like an actress comedian. If that makes sense.
Like in Girls Trip, which I believe that the producer of the Oscars is the director of Girls Trip as well.
Yeah, correct.
So she's like a hilarious actress.
And she's from like the Scary Movie series and all that. Yeah. So the reason why Regina Hall is getting a little bit of backlash is because throughout the show, she was kind of running with this gag, like a running bit, which was like, "Hey, everybody, I'm single, and there's a bunch of fine men out here, so get ready."
That was like horny Regina.
It was just horny Regina essentially, which to me, on its face, is funny. Like that jives with like her sense of humor, her whole persona. Like I wasn't even mad at it, and I got to be honest, as I was watching what happened, I wasn't even mad at it, but like upon reflection, I was like,
we kind of have like opposing thoughts on this.
We do.
Bit.
So here's what happened. So Regina, the big thing is that she at one point she said she called up like Bradley Cooper, Timothée Chalamet, Simu Liu, a lot of like the young hot single guys.
She was a Jacob Elordi, but he didn't come up.
Right. She kind of like called him, but he didn't come.
Yeah.
And she's basically said, we got to do extra COVID testing. And part of that COVID testing is me taking you in the back, and I gotta swab you with my tongue.
Take your mask off and your clothes. I'm gonna swab the back of your mouth with my tongue and do some other freaky stuff that I record for Academy Protocol. This isn't up to me. We're still in a pandemic.
Yes, and then she sent those guys backstage, and then Josh Brolin and Jason Momoa came up to do present an award. And then Regina kept the bit going, and she said, "Sorry, I got to do more COVID testing. I got to do a pat down." So she was like filling up on their ass. In fact, I think we have a little bit of the sound for that too.
Sorry, I got to do a COVID pat down. Jesus, thing is it's rough. You know what I mean? I just gotta get on down here. Make sure you're okay. All right. Yeah, let me get on in there. Yeah, he's feeling good, everybody. Get on over here. Oh boy, wow, this is a lot. This is a lot. Gotta get on over here. Excuse me.
You know, I don't think that's a thing.
You're safe.
Just hearing it without like just listening to it, it's even funnier.
It's hilarious. And so we should mention, so basically she felt them up, patted them down, whatever. We should mention right off the bat, just for the record, that Josh Brolin and Jason Momoa and all the other guys that she brought up there, they seemed to be totally in on the joke.
Yes.
They were fully consent. You know what I mean?
It wasn't consensual.
It wasn't some creepy like, let me grope you.
Yeah.
Like, no, it was not
it was
inappropriate.
a bit. It was
yeah, it was all scripted. It was part of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, here's the criticism. The criticism that some people brought up was, boy, oh boy, a man could not get away with that. Even if it was scripted, even if the women, if you reverse the roles, even if everybody was in on it and everybody was it was all consensual, a man could not get away with doing that. Especially in this day and age, like after Me Too and all that, like there's just no way that a man could do exactly that.
that's obvious, yes.
Right. Okay, so that goes without saying then. But some people still felt the need to kind of chirp up and say it. And like, look, I mean, I'll acknowledge, it is a double standard. Objectively, it's a double standard, and I get that. And you know, yeah, like could a man get away with it? No, she couldn't. They couldn't. Regina can get away with it though. And the question is, am I okay with it? The answer is yes. Honestly, like, I mean, I'm not gonna try to feign.
Okay, then I guess we don't have.
I'm not gonna. At first, I was kind of like, yeah, this is kind of BS. But like, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna feign outrage. I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna say it was a bit. It was funny. It was kind of part of Regina's entire whole gag that night about being single. And yes, I can. Two things can be true. That it's a double standard, and that a man could not get away with that. Yes, that in and of itself is true. Here's the other truth. That was funny as hell.
Yes.
It was hilarious.
Okay,
and it worked.
Yeah. Okay, so I really thought we were going to disagree on this. But
yes, and I turned the tables on you.
You turned it on me. Okay, you turned it on. You turned the tables on me. Okay, yeah. So I agree. I think, but I will admit, I didn't even think about it being a double standard because I was just like, well, obviously it is.
Right.
And I just thought it was freaking hilarious.
Right.
And then like hours later, we were talking, and then I was like, we had looked up some more, reactions and stuff, and I was like, oh, I guess it is a double standard, but like it's still like freaking hilarious. Like I don't think two things can be true. It is a double standard. Yes, a man cannot even do like a portion of that.
Yeah.
And it was also absolutely hilarious.
Right.
And so original, I thought it was a great way to bring in like, a COVID joke, because they had to have a little bit in there.
Right,
and I thought that was a perfect way to do it. And, having some single hot guys as a woman, like, come on, like, I love that. I love Timothée Chalamet. So, and I also, but going off that, there was this tweet that I saw, because a lot of people, obviously Twitter was divided. Some people are saying, oh, that's, why do we need the horny Regina? Like, it was so distasteful, blah, blah, blah. And they said the double standard, like, a man can never do that. And people got outraged over it on that end.
Yeah, they were.
But then there were people that were kind of on the other end, like, this is so funny, like, love it, like, she should have hosted by herself, like, all this stuff.
I actually think that's a great point. I think Regina honestly probably could have hosted by herself.
I think Amy could have too.
Yeah, true. Any one of them probably could have done it.
And same with Wanda, yeah. So, but there was someone that, this tweet, I don't want to go too far into this, but someone pointed out, they wrote, kind of love that Regina is getting to do a bit men have been doing for years and better. So almost kind of saying that, like, men have been objectifying women forever, and she kind of got to do it, but I don't thought it wasn't too much.
No.
Like, I think it wasn't, not like she was, she didn't pat them all down. She patted a couple of them down. It's not like she was, and it wasn't like long. It went on for a little bit, but it didn't go on and on and on.
It's not like she grabbed their junk or anything.
Exactly. I was going to say,
at that point, I would have been like, okay, that's
I was trying to allude to that without actually saying that.
She was just grabbing their butts and grabbing their thighs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It was tasteful. I thought
exactly. It was tasteful. It wasn't like
gratuitous or
it wasn't
over
too
the line.
much.
No. I thought it was perfectly well within the line. So all the outraged people can just simmer down.
Yeah, just get some ice water.
And pivoting off of that, kind of getting to actually like a nice standout moment from the Oscars that was actually heartwarming and really feel good. So Francis Ford Coppola, he came on stage. The Oscars was honoring the 50th anniversary of The Godfather.
Al Pacino came up.
Al Pacino came up with him. Robert De Niro came up with him. And Francis Ford Coppola, he basically kept his speech pretty short. He only thanked two people. Listen to who he thanked.
So I'm going to only thank two from the bottom of my heart. One is a collaborator who I've thanked many times, and every time you see the name The Godfather, his name is above the title, Mario Puzo. And another I've never thanked, but the time is due that I do, because it was his participation and his decisions at the end that made it possible. Robert Evans.
So here's why that's a big deal. The Robert Evans, who died a few years ago, he was a former executive at Paramount. He was the guy who was greenlighting movies back in those days, and he's the one that greenlit The Godfather and kind of got the whole thing moving. And he's the one who actually hired Francis and kind of shepherded the whole thing. During the making of that movie, and this is like some old Hollywood history stuff, Francis and Robert clash. Like, it is very well known that they not only just butted heads, you could argue that they were mortal enemies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, there were things about budget, and frankly, Robert Evans did not like Marlon Brando as a casting choice, and he really did not like Al Pacino as a casting choice for Michael Corleone. He basically there's a quote out there somewhere that says that Robert Evans allegedly called Al Pacino a quote unquote runt. Like, I don't want a runt playing the lead of this movie, because he was like short and he didn't like it. Francis, meanwhile, defended Al Pacino, and in hindsight, obviously made the right decision by casting both of those guys. And then after the movie came out, apparently Robert Evans was really touting and hyping up his role in making the movie. And that pissed off Francis Ford Coppola. So we have gotten our hands on some telegrams, like
bringing it back,
old Western Union telegrams, which is what people sent to each other back in the day. They're like letters essentially.
Yeah. Or like fax.
Sort of like fax. Yes,
yeah.
kind of, but like kind of through like cart and buggy kind of thing. Yeah. So Francis Ford Coppola, he sent Robert Evans back then a scathing telegram, and I'll read just a little part of it if I may.
Yeah.
This is what Francis said to Robert in part. He says, "You did nothing on The Godfather other than annoy me and slow it down. You had nothing to do with the movie. You will never see The Cotton Club," which is another movie they worked on, "until it is an answer print. You have double-crossed me for the last time. If you want a PR war of any kind, no one is better at it than me." And we have the full telegrams on our website. People can go read it. There's a lot more that Francis says. I mean, like, really, it was like, it's very eloquent, but it's like so nasty, you know? Robert Evans, in turn, replied, and he said, I mean, this is another crazy telegram. And so he starts, he goes, "Dear Francis, thank you for your charming cable. I cannot imagine what prompted this venomous diatribe. I am both annoyed and exacerbated by your fallacious accusations." And then he goes on to say, what does he say? He goes, "But if they are a reflection of your hostility, I bear great sympathy and concern for your apparent paranoid schizophrenic behavior." And he also says, "Do not mistake my kindness for weakness." So again, that just confirms these two men, even though they worked on this movie together and they actually got it made. And by the way, there are TV shows and movies actually being made now about the making of The Godfather, because it was so dramatic. This is part of that drama. These guys were clashing. And as Francis Ford Coppola noted, he never publicly thanked Robert Evans.
And he calmly
So basically, the fact that Francis, all these years later, even though Robert is dead at this point, the fact that he's coming out now on the 50th anniversary, bearing the hatchet and saying, this guy he deserves his due credit. You know what I mean? Because he really was there. It was just such a heartwarming moment for cinephiles and movie lovers. Like, if you love movies and great films like The Godfather, and you know the history of these two guys, you know how big that was.
Do you think, since I know it's kind of like, we're not going to talk too much about this, but do you think that they buried the hatchet in private before he died?
I think it's possible. I think it's possible that they might have done it behind closed doors, because when Robert Evans died, I was doing a little bit of research on this last night. When Robert Evans died in 2019, Francis actually shared some kind words for him at that point, and basically said, "I'll remember Robert Evans as a handsome man, a determined man," you know, and like kind of singing his praises a little bit as far as his work at Paramount. But as far as like in a speech type setting like this, it had never been done. And just a super cool movie history moment that kind of, it was sweet, but it kind of got bogged down with all the other noise and nonsense that was going on.
I mean, a lot of things did. Let's be real.
Yes. And speaking of noise or a lack thereof.
So we were really surprised that Ukraine was hardly mentioned.
Yep.
We thought, especially after Amy Schumer, said on Drew Barrymore's show that she even pitched to have Zelensky satellite in, which, okay, that was,
I know, lofty goals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that's not going to happen. But I expected that there would be, several presenters would mention it.
Yes.
There'd be like segments. I thought there'd be like a whole way more than there was.
100%.
And so basically, what did happen was that it was slightly mentioned. There were a few allusions to it. So Mila Kunis, when she introduced Reba's performance for her performance of one of the best original songs, Mila alluded. Of course, Mila Kunis has been very vocal about what's going on.
And she's from Ukraine.
And she's from
She
Ukraine.
was born and raised there, and then eventually came here. Right.
So I was expecting that she was going to be there. That she was going to do something big.
Yes.
With Ukraine.
When they brought her out, I was literally.
When she was on the red carpet, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be something.
I knew that. I thought Mila would be the Ukraine moment because up until that point, the show had gone on for like an hour and a half already, and they had hardly mentioned it
Not
at all.
So she said before she introduced Reba, she said, recent global events have left many of us feeling gutted, yet when you witness the strength and dignity of those facing such devastation, it's impossible to not be moved by their resilience. She did not mention the word Ukraine explicitly.
No, she did not say the words Ukraine.
And
she called it recent global events, which was very interesting.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't they say the word? And then after Reba's performance, the Academy had these title cards come up for like a moment of silence, and Ukraine was actually listed in there.
They actually
used
said
the word Ukraine.
They basically said something to the effect of like, listen, as great of a vehicle as movies are to inspire change and for cultural causes and whatnot, there are refugees that need real money, real food, real resources. So please donate now. It was kind of just like a we stand with Ukraine type of thing. But again, it was a moment of silence, which was nice. But they put that message up in these title cards or these slides or whatever you want to call them.
Like a PowerPoint presentation.
Right, a PowerPoint presentation essentially. Yeah. But they did not really go out of their way.
And I missed it.
Yeah,
we were both working.
Weren't watching
so I wasn't watching that part, and then I was like, "What's on the screen?" Like you would have missed it.
They really did sort of, in my opinion, gloss over the whole Ukraine thing.
Why couldn't she have just said that?
Yeah, you're right. That she could have said
the statement.
And it also seems like the fact that Mila did not mention the word Ukraine. I have a feeling that producers and showrunners were
something.
They were trying to kind of downplay it a little bit, and there was a few,
especially Mila.
Right, there were a few winners along the way that kind of said, stand with Ukraine or whatever, but it was brief and fleeting. It wasn't like a prolonged thing.
Well, I should note that during the red carpet, there were multiple celebrities who wore support refugees ribbons or had Ukraine flag, or I think Jason Momoa had a pocket square that was yellow and blue.
Sure.
So stuff like that. But again, I really expected there was going to be more. I mean, Amy Schumer slipped in Ukraine really quickly.
Yeah, she said there's a genocide going on and women are losing their rights.
Yeah.
But that seemed like an off-script moment. That
I'm not sure if that was even
I don't think it was pre-approved. I think she sort of just slipped it in. But again, that just kind of goes to show, it seems that the Oscars this year really did not want to address the Ukraine situation, which I found kind of astounding because it's like the biggest topic for the entire world.
Which was so surprising.
What's so funny about this is that just a day earlier, Sean Penn, who is actually in Poland right now, he's doing a documentary,
right? Yeah.
But he's also doing a ton of humanitarian work through his core organization. He's on the ground doing real stuff over there. He did an interview with CNN this weekend where he basically said something to the effect of, he backed Amy Schumer's original idea of having Zelensky beam in and say something.
Satellite in,
he said, not only should that happen, but if that does not happen, in fact, actually, why am I even saying it? We have the sound. Let Sean Penn speak for himself.
If presenters have elected not to pursue the leadership in Ukraine who are taking bullets and bombs for us, along with the Ukrainian children that they are trying to protect, then I think every single one of those people and every bit of that decision will have been the most obscene moment in all of Hollywood history. And I hope that's not what's happening. If it turns out to be what's happening, I would encourage everyone involved to know that though it may be their moment, and I understand that, to celebrate their films, it is so much more importantly their moment to shine and to protest and to boycott that Academy Awards. And I myself, if it comes back to it, when I return, I will smelt mine in public.
So very long-winded and very flowing kind of prose there. But essentially what he said is, if Zelensky and or his leadership is not allowed to speak, I encourage people to boycott the Oscars, and I get it. This is your moment, but frankly, this Ukraine matter is a way bigger deal than that. So boycott the Oscars, and not only that, but he says if it turns out to be the fact that they snub Zelensky and don't get him in for a chance to speak, I'm going to literally smelt. I was like, what? I had to look up what the word smelt was.
I was like, what does that mean?
What the hell is smelting?
I had to Google it. Yeah.
So it's literally melting down metal and then like pour, like when you see like the
lava,
the iron workers and stuff. He was like, I'm going to smelt my Oscars. He has 2 of them.
He has 2? Yeah.
In public. And I was like, Jesus.
In public?
In public. So I was like, Jesus Christ. So now after all this Ukraine, this non-Ukraine chatter at the Oscars, essentially, but the fact that Ukraine was sort of downplayed, Zelensky obviously did not appear.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Part of me was kind of giddy at the idea. I'm like, oh, wow, is Sean Penn going to come over and melt his Oscars down? Like, that's going to be cool. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. Obviously, he feels very strongly about it. And, like, I mean, look, we kind of discussed this earlier, too, about would it have been appropriate for Zelensky to beam in or not? Part of me feels like, no, it wouldn't be appropriate. But
let's be real. Even if they did ask, I highly doubt that Zelensky or his leadership would have been able to do that. You really don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, frankly, like I'm not no shade at Zelensky, but he has been doing a bit of a tour lately, like
I guess you're
a
right.
bit of a little victory speech tour. Like he's been, for
like
good cause.
But
for good cause. Like he's doing these speeches for good reason. Asking for things he needs, but he has been making himself available to zoom into Parliament, to zoom into Congress, to speak to all these different nations.
But you think like the Oscars would be up there?
If they would have approached him, and they would have approached him early, I think he could have done it.
Really?
I think, because look, he's an entertainer. He's an actor. He's a comedian.
Yeah,
he knows showbiz.
I always keep having to remind myself of that.
Yeah, he's an entertainer.
It's hard to remember.
Yeah,
to remind
it's
yourself
nuts. It's just such a crazy story. But like, I do actually think if they would have approached him early and planned it out properly, yes, he probably would have been more than happy to take the moment because a lot of people were watching. It probably would have made for a powerful moment.
Especially because they didn't have other stuff.
Yeah.
I think that maybe Sean Penn, like obviously can't speak for him, but I think that maybe he would have been a little more like, okay, or like, they at least they did this and this and this, but they barely did anything.
You're right. And
they barely said the word Ukraine. So he's probably going to be like, well, let's
There's no better way to piss off Sean Penn in this context than by doing what they did. Essentially downplaying Ukraine, hardly mentioning Ukraine. Sean Penn was probably watching the show like, what the hell? Like, all right, here comes the hot metal.
And there's like bombs going off wherever he is, and he's like, hello.
So we will see what happens with Sean Penn and his alleged melting of the Oscars.
Maybe he'll just melt one.
Maybe he'll just melt one and keep the other one. But if he actually does it, man, that would be a huge moment in and of itself. Because
he puts it on camera.
Sean Penn's
part
intense.
Of his documentary.
Sean Penn is super intense.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up doing it.
Yeah, if he actually does, I mean, that'd be great content. We'll talk about that then too.
To be continued.
Yes, and so that's kind of the wrap up for the Oscars. Those were our takeaways.
What was your ultimate overall opinion of the Oscars? Short. Let's just
I mean, like all things considered, like including the Will Smith stuff, or without the Will Smith stuff.
You're right. Those are kind of two different things.
I mean, yeah. Let's keep without Will Smith. I thought it was going okay. I thought it was. I don't know. It was like a regular Oscars to me.
Yeah.
It didn't seem too edgy. It didn't seem like too much of anything. The fact that they did the edited, the pre-filmed categories, I thought was sort of ridiculous. It's like really because they filled the show with other stuff that, in my opinion, didn't need to be there. All these extra little skits and stuff.
Some of the anniversary stuff was kind of cool, but like the James Bond one was a little bizarre.
Yeah, Tony Hawk coming out to present. Yeah. Like that was just so weird.
And like Javier Bardem and like Judi Dench in the audience. Like why couldn't they have gone up there?
They have a Bond connection.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's like freaking athletes going up. That made no sense.
I mean, we kind of talked this about. We talked about this before. But this really felt like the Oscars were reaching for ratings. They were reaching to try to be funny and try to get all these names in there. At the end of the day, like movie lovers, and that's who you should be catering to, in my opinion. You should be catering to the hardcore base, movie lovers, film lovers, who really just want to be there and watch it.
These are people that throw Oscar parties. This is their Super Bowl.
They want to be there for the celebration of film and the art of film. And there was a lot of shenanigans I kind of was like rolling my eyes at, frankly. I thought it was fine, but it was just like, it was a lot of nonsense. And by the way, congratulations to Coda winning Best Picture.
Yes,
I watched Coda, by the way.
You did.
Watched it and loved it.
You did?
Love it, just like the Green Book effect. I mean, like
Doesn't it just like
it warms your heart,
yes.
and like, it was just so like I mean, again, highlighting a community that you never
Wasn't
really.
Troy Coates just incredible?
He was.
Yeah.
He was, and there was so much humor in that movie. But we don't have to get too into the weeds of all that.
But I'm so glad I finally finished Power of the Dog.
Oh, great! What'd you think?
It was okay. Sorry to have such an excited reaction to Dakota.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I
mean the performances were good. It was a like well-made film.
Sure.
And the performances were good. The story was interesting. The cinematography was beautiful. But I just like couldn't get over. It would just make me so uncomfortable. Which I guess it still created a reaction. It's supposed to do that.
Right.
But like the skinning of the animals and the killing the rabbits.
That's rancher life right there.
Yeah,
That's
that stuff was a little hard for me to swallow.
Yeah.
But it added to it, and it did. Like we had talked about this. That films can. You don't have to enjoy them.
They don't have to make you feel all warm and fuzzy
like Coda,
for it to be good.
Exactly.
Right.
So
even though Coda did accomplish it, totally well deserved.
Yeah.
And that sort of kind of wraps up our Oscar recap for this first episode.
Until next year.
And from one last thing that we're going to end on. This is unrelated to the Oscars.
Just
but
something fun.
It has something to do with movies, and it stirred a response out of me. I'll say that.
Same.
And actually, we posted a poll about this on the TMZ website. A lot of people chimed in.
17,000
people chimed in and weighed in on this. So here's the deal. There was this viral video that surfaced over the weekend. No context on when or where or anything. You don't really need it. Like the context is sort of in the video itself. It's a guy in what appears to be a relatively empty movie theater. A
lot of open seats.
The video starts with him kind of being approached by theater staff telling him, you got to go to your assigned seat or you got to leave. From my understanding, it seems that somebody came up to him. He was in their assigned seat, again, relatively empty theater, and asked him to move. And he probably looked around and said, there's a million seats around here. Just grab a seat. No, I'm not moving. So he put his foot down. Staff came, asked him to leave, and just listen to a little bit of this. It's crazy.
It's not your seat.
Go away.
That's not gonna
I pay my money. I have a right to it.
Sit in your seat.
Okay. At this point, you are disrupting the show for these fine folks. We're going to ask you to leave. We'll get you a refund, though. I'll be nice and get you a refund.
I don't know. I might want to be taken out in handcuffs now.
I'll be nice and I'll get you a refund.
I want more than just a refund.
Okay.
Can I get a drink?
We'll take care of you.
So
can I get a drink?
Yeah, the can I get a drink line is hilarious. Like, can I get a drink?
Yeah.
Can I get an extra large, please? Soda pop? If you go watch the full video on our website, you will see that his point is this. If I just moved one seat over, then this would be a problem? Like, that's what you're telling me? If I just moved one seat over, all of this fuss would not exist. And I watched that and I was like, you know what? I get his point. Like, especially in the context of what's happening. Relatively empty theater.
Crowded theater, completely different story.
Crowded theater, I get it. Like you got to. That's where assigned seating actually really plays a part, and you should be in your assigned seat. And if, and like, listen, I go to movies all the time. I sometimes I sit. I don't sit. I don't always sit where I purchase the ticket. If I see a space that looks more appealing or it's a little more framed up in the middle or something, I'll go there. In a packed theater, if somebody comes and tells me to move, no questions asked, I'll leave. But in an empty theater, if somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, hey, you're in my seat," I would do what this guy kind of did. I'm defending Santa Claus here.
Can't you just Santa Claus?
I would be like I would look around and be like, "Bro, there's a million seats around here. Like, I mean, do you really need me to move?" I would just pose that question. Like, is it really that big a deal? Do you really need me to move? Just pick another seat. Like, who gives a shit, But apparently this man was faced with the same confrontation, and apparently this person, and I'm not going to say they Karen'd or tattletaled, but they kind of did.
100%.
They tattled and they went to management and said, this guy's in my seat. And like, look, here's the thing. Like, theoretically, yes, it is a seat that somebody purchased, and in theory...
It is against the rules.
Yes, it's against the rules, and in theory, yes, he should have moved, gone to another seat. You could argue that he's the one being unreasonable for making such a big fuss. It's like, dude, who cares? Just move your seat. It's not that big a deal. Because the same argument can kind of be flipped on him. Like, well, dude, like there's a million seats. Like, just grab another seat. Like, who cares? But he was taking a principled stance, and I'll say this. In a time where principled stances are far and few between, I appreciate this one. And by the way, the poll that we posted seemed pretty split.
It was like 50-50.
It was kind of like 50-50. It was like 40-something with like 50-something. But like a lot of people agreed, like, yeah, if there's other seats, then just sit somewhere. Who cares? Like, even if, yes, it's your assigned seat, whatever the rules, whatever, grab a seat. So I don't know. What's your take on it?
I actually agree with you. I think that, well, a little bit. I think his argument was warranted.
Yeah.
But the way that he kept going on and on about it was a little much. I'm like, I feel like he could have just said like, there's all these seats available. Why can't they just sit somewhere else?
Which he said,
right? But I feel like he didn't need to keep going on like, I'm not moving.
Yeah, he definitely made a huge scene.
Like that was not necessary, especially like, wait, I need to know like what movie were they seeing? Like, was it already supposed to start? Like,
right.
You know, like I feel
there's some
context,
information that's missing.
Like
You're
if
right.
it was like the Batman and it's like a 3-hour movie, like people have places to go. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'd be kind of mad at that guy. Like that was holding up the movie.
He was holding up the movie for sure.
That would be annoying.
By the way, other people in the video, if you watch the full thing, they're like, "Come on!" Like, they're like yelling at him, like telling him to like shut the hell up. Essentially.
Yeah. So I do think when the theater is pretty much empty and there's all these seats, kind of like what you're saying. I move seats if it's an empty theater.
Yeah, if it's convenient to me, I move.
When it's less crowded, to be honest, because then you can like be like, oh, I actually kind of move here, or like I put my purse on the seat next to me. And if someone came over and said, oh, I want to sit and this is my assigned seat where your purse is, and I'm like, can't you just sit over there?
Yeah.
There's all these open seats on this row.
Right.
But I wouldn't like go get management,
or
I wouldn't. At the first one, I wouldn't start like being like, I'm not moving. Like I wouldn't have. I wouldn't.
I will acknowledge it's a weird hill to die on. This man died on it.
I want to know. I'm curious to know. Like I want to know like how it ended.
Yeah, so do I. But I guess I just missed the old days of movies where it's first come first serve. I'd missed the '90s, even though I wasn't really an adult in the '90s.
It was like a low key Hunger Games.
It was.
I remember
It was a
like
free-for-all.
Twilight. We would like camp out and stuff.
Yeah,
like
it was a different time. So now things are a little more systematic and whatnot. So. Anyway, that is a great way to end our first episode of Movie Crashers. And we can just mention, TMZ Movie Crashers is on podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify. This is going to be on YouTube as well. So feel free to subscribe. Check us out. We're going to be doing this each week.
Giving our hot takes.
And giving you the movie content that you love. So check us out next time, and we will catch you guys next time.
See you later.
See ya.